What's up? My name is Justin. This is World Blind Black Gaming, at least until I can think of a better title for this channel. And I would like to talk about, this is a new channel I just started up. I want to talk about something that happened a little while ago that might be a little bit past its shelf life. I want to talk, as you could tell from the title of this article, from this video I should say. I'm used to writing articles on the internet, not doing videos. But I wanted to talk about the article, Samus is a Transgender Woman, deal with it, from Brianna Wu and Ellen McGrody, I think. And I use the term idiots in the title of this video, partially to get attention, to get clicks, I'll be honest with that. But I also did it partially because this article is freaking idiotic. Now let me explain, first of all, I have nothing against transgender people. This isn't, a vendetta against transgender or transsexual, or, I apologize for using the wrong terminology. I don't mean to offend anybody. But I take offense to this as an English major. So I have a degree in English that I worked moderately hard for, spent 4 years of my life, 5 years of my life getting, and that involved a lot of literary analysis, studying literature and such. So when articles like this are passed off as some sort of analysis, some sort of meaningful exploration of the game world, the literature of the game, I'll call it, it pisses me off because it cheapens what I studied, what my degree is in. So I will talk about why that is. Now I get why people, transgender people, and maybe even non-transgender people, might want more transgender representation in games. Personally, for myself, I want characters I can relate to, so I would like more chubby white characters in games. And I actually don't mean that flippantly. I'll give you an example. I loved wrestling in the mid-90s to early 2000s. I loved wrestling, but I couldn't relate to that many of the characters. The popular characters at the time were Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was this badass redneck, and I was never going to be a badass redneck. You had The Rock, who was just an amazingly cool guy, and I would never be an amazingly cool guy. And then, though, you had this character, Mankind, Mick Foley. He was this overweight, roly-poly kind of guy. He looked disheveled all the time. He was an outsider, an outcast, and that was something I could relate to. And just having that one character, at least, who I could relate to, who kind of I could see myself looked a little bit like me, that meant a lot. That made me enjoy wrestling so much more. So I get why people might want a transgender character in the video game that they can relate to. That being said, just because they want it does not make it true. So when you study literature, the only thing that's true is in the text. And what their evidence is that somebody, I believe their name was Hirofumi Matsuoka, who was credited as a background artist on the original Metroid. They claim he designed Samus, but as far as I can tell, he's only credited as a background artist, so his role in designing Samus must not have been that big. But they say that this guy, in an interview with the strategy guide for Super Metroid, said that Samus is what they called a new half, which is apparently a Japanese term that doesn't translate too well to English, but they are saying it basically means transgender. Two problems with this. First of all, like I said, Hirofumi Matsuoka is not credited with designing Samus, and even if this was the sole person, even if he was the only person who made Metroid, this was a one-man effort, that still does not make it true. In literature, the only thing that matters is what is written in the text. So let me give you an example. Let's say a student, this isn't a literature example, but let's say a student on a math test wrote that 1 + 1 = 3. His teacher marks him wrong, and when he gets it back, he goes up to the teacher and says, "But I meant to say 3. I meant to say 2. That doesn't matter, because that's not what's on the paper. That's not what he said. His work is his work. His intention does not matter. Let's say two people, we'll call them, I don't know, Ellen McGrody and Brianna Wu. Let's say they set out to write an intelligent article and they wrote a freaking pile of drivel. Just because they intended it to be intelligent does not make it so. Their intention does not matter. What they actually put on the paper, that is what mattered. So going to their example, they use the example that J.K. Rowling said that Dumbledore is gay, and therefore he's gay. No, that is not how it works. Now, Dumbledore, I would say, is probably gay, but the reason I say that is not because I just follow J.K. Rowling's word and, what she says must go. Think about it this way. If J.K. Rowling said, Voldemort, in his free time, likes to rescue stray kittens, and he works at a soup kitchen, you wouldn't accept that, even if J.K. Rowling said it, because it goes against what's in the text. Now, in the case of Dumbledore, her statement actually goes with the text, which is why we can accept it. So I'm going to nerd out a little bit, but in the last Harry Potter book, we find out a little bit about Dumbledore's backstory. That's a big focus of the movie as to whether or not he can be trusted. And we don't find out anything about any close female relationships he had besides his sister. We don't find out any romantic interests we have, or any relationships really. The only relationship that seems that important from his younger life is the relationship he had with a wizard, I think his name was Grindelwald, who originally had the Elder Wand. So what we know about this relationship is we know Grindelwald, I think he wanted Muggles to be dominated by wizards. He wanted wizards to rule the world, essentially, and Dumbledore went along with him. And this is kind of confusing for fans because it just seems very out of character for Dumbledore. There is a possibility that he was just like that in his younger days, but there's also a possibility that this wizard was manipulating Dumbledore, that their relationship was so strong that he was able to get Dumbledore to do things that were normally out of character for him. And that gives the heavy implication that this was a sexual or romantic relationship. So, like I said, we don't accept Dumbledore as gay because J.K. Rowling said he's gay. We accept it because the text backs it up. She's not just talking out of her ass. She's explaining what she wrote, and that's why we accept it. Now let's look at the claim that Samus Aran is a transgender woman. I believe, I'm not an expert on the Metroid series, I played the Game Boy Advance ones, and also Prime. I just started Super Metroid, which you can see in here. But from what I understand, she was taken from her home when she was a very young child, I think about 3, and she was already identifying as a female. When she gets to Chozo, the planet Talon 4, she is raised by a race called the Chozo, which are a race of bird people. So my question is, how does this boy, I guess if you're saying this theory is true, how is this little boy who's growing up on the planet Chozo with freaking bird people, how does their gender identity, and I think the authors would agree with me that gender is a social contract, so how would their gender identity be so in tune with a typical Earth female? Why would they feel the need to express that when they are raised on Talon 4 by bird people? And we know that Samus would have to be a post-op transsexual, because not to get gross, but we can see her in skin-tight clothing, there's no bulge, and she has breasts that are getting progressively larger as the Smash Bros. Series continues. So who on planet Chozo, who of these bird people is responsible for the human transgender gender reassignment operations, and why does this boy growing up on Talon 4 feel he needs that so badly? Do they get 17 magazine? Does he, does he get 17 magazine? Does he have gender messages coming at him left and right on the planet Chozo with the friggin' bird people? It is incredibly unlikely. It makes totally no sense that this character would have such a strong need to identify as a female that he would have a sex change operation. So, in the lack of some sort of compelling evidence that he had a sex change operation, we have to assume that Samus was always a girl and always has been. And to think anything else with with no evidence from the text, that just pisses me off because, from I'm working as a teacher now, and from from even the first grade, that's what we teach students. You have to point to the text. You need text-based evidence. And this article just has none of that. It is just this baseless assertion made of one random comment. And as someone who studies literature and took it somewhat seriously, it pissed me off. So if you agree with me, then you can like, comment, subscribe. If you don't agree with me, you could still like, comment, and subscribe, although I don't suspect that you would. If you have some sort of compelling argument from the actual games, from their stories, I'll even take something from like the official manga or something. But if you have any compelling evidence that Samus Aran is in fact a transgender woman, then I am willing to hear that out and revise my opinion accordingly. You can comment me at Twitter at GotGameJustin. Of course, send me a message over on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this content. I found it interesting at the very least. And until next week, I'll come back with something else. Until then, later.